Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the University of Bolton, can I extend to you the warmest welcome on this very special night. My name is Gordon Burns, or in fact, to be absolutely precise, Dr. Gordon Burns. No? I mean, the amount of surprise there were in people's faces there was absolutely stunning. But I really do have that distinguished title to my name, which I'm very proud. And it was this very university that bestowed it on me, presenting me with an honorary doctorate for services to journalism and broadcasting, which usually means you've retired now. And I can't tell you what a huge thrill that was. Never having been to university myself. I mean, I went straight from school into my local newspaper as a trainee reporter. So as I said in my acceptance speech on that marvellous graduation day, you now see before you a genuine case of first-degree burns. Well, cut out the groans. So I'm absolutely delighted you could all come here tonight to celebrate with us as we launch the university's brand new business school. It's yet another proud day and another important chapter in the unfolding story of the University of Bolton, with its 13,000 students on campus here and a further 1,000 at the business school. It's a university that likes to do things differently. It revels in being forward-thinking, and under its dynamic vice-chancellor and his supporting team, has a real entrepreneurial spirit about it. The rapid development and expansion of the university is proof of that, with a now well-established campus in the heart of the Middle East at Ras Al Khaimah, near Dubai, presences in 8 other countries around the world, a recently established Centre for Islamic Finance here at this campus, the building of a £100,000 brand new mock law court, which you may well have passed through on your way to the reception area today. Also, the launching later in the year of a Centre for Automated Performance Engineering. There's the magnificent new £31 million Bolton One Health and Research Centre right next door, built in partnership with Bolton Council and Bolton NHS. A bid also in for one of the government's new university technical colleges. And of course, what we're all here for tonight, the launch of this brand new Bolton Business School. So quite a record, I think you'll agree. So to speak to you now on behalf of the university, would you please welcome the Chair of the Board of Governors, Marianne Neville-Rolfe.
In launching the new business school facilities and programs, we're building on solid foundations. This is not, having a business school is not new. Having this business school is what is new. The business school already has around 1,000 students on campus in Bolton and hundreds more on our business courses at international locations spanning the globe. The school is already building new degree courses driven by the needs of the professions. Most of you saw our law court, which is part of the new school, as you came through to this presentation. We are developing research centres which tap into the elite of their field. Norman Lamont, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer, is on the board of our Centre for Islamic Finance, and its head, Professor Mohammed Abdelhak, has just been appointed to the UK government's first Islamic Finance Task Force. So we're really in the centre of things as far as that particular and very significant development is concerned. We really look forward to working closely with many of you. We aim to provide the services, training and education you need for your businesses to succeed. That's what we're all about.
So ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the new head of Bolton Business School, Lisa Cove-Burrell.
As the new head of Bolton Business School, it is a great pleasure to see you all this evening, sharing in this exciting and important occasion. Bolton Business School has 2 core goals: to work hand in hand with its business partners, established and new ones, and to do its utmost for its students, ensuring they're equipped with the knowledge and skills to have successful careers. These 2 aims are essential for the success and will benefit our communities in Bolton, across our region and beyond.
The Mayor of Bolton and the Mayoress have honoured us with their presence at yet another important event in the life of this university. So, ladies and gentlemen, would you please give him a very warm welcome as I invite now a few words from the Mayor of Bolton, who appropriately enough, on a business occasion like this, is a former senior lecturer in management. So, the Mayor of Bolton, Councillor Guy Harkin.
Bolton, the university is sponsoring the Bolton and Bury Business Awards. And I went to the last year's Bolton as one of the first things as mayor, and it gave me great pleasure that two of the MDs whose companies received awards, I'd taught 30 years earlier. Now, I think the message I know we've got here, people who are students, people who are teachers, and people who are business people. So I think there are lessons for all three people in that. For the students, work hard, study hard, and you'll get there. These two people who I taught 30 years earlier were junior managers who ended up as managing directors of their organisations by hard work and graft. So that's for the lesson for the students. For the lecturers, it's great when you think, am I really being effective? That 30 years later, people who are pretty junior in organisations, you see them receiving awards as the managing directors of major organisations. That's greatly gratifying as a teacher. But also to the employers, it's worthwhile investing in your young people because those guys weren't there purely of their own volition. Their companies had given them time and encouragement to develop their skills to end up where they ended up. So there are lessons, I think, I drew 3 lessons. It's worthwhile doing it as a student. Teaching is a great and gratifying profession, and for employers, give your staff the ability to develop their skills, and they'll reward you by being much more effective in your organisations. Thank you very much.
Now, we are here this evening, as you know, to launch the new business school that will prepare and release into the business world out there the young entrepreneurs and major employers of the future. And our very special guest tonight is the perfect example for them of what can be achieved if you've got the vision, the drive, and the dedication to succeed and build a great business. And of course, we all love a rags to riches story, and that's what we've got tonight. A working class Salford lad who started with nothing and ended up a multi-millionaire by building a hugely successful business, and with more to come as he continues to expand, and he currently employs over 10,000 people. I doubt whether there's anyone here who hasn't heard of Betfred, the bookmaker's chain. You can't have missed it, really. And we are thrilled to have Mr. Betfred himself, Fred Doan, with us for me to interview this evening and for you to throw in your questions too. And of course, just 2 years ago, Fred rocked the racing world when he entered and won the bidding war to acquire the government-owned tote in a deal worth £265 million. And as we'll hear from him, many in the racing world were not happy at the thought of a working-class northerner from the cobbled streets and smoky factory chimneys of these air-frozen parts, not to mention a couple of whippets by his side, taking over one of their sacred cows. And the great thing about Fred, of course, is that he has kept his base in the northwest, with Betfred's headquarters in Warrington and the tote in Wigan. And as we'll also find out, and I think we heard a hint of it earlier, he has a real connection with the University of Bolton. So ladies and gentlemen, as we now move into our Parkinson's set style, would you please welcome our guest of honour tonight, Fred Doan. So welcome to you, Fred. Recently back, of course, from the Cheltenham Festival last week, when the favourite won the Cheltenham Gold Cup, which is great news for the punters, but terrible news for the bookmakers. What sort of a week did you have?
Well, it was my life's been an up and down life, but it was one of the downs last week for me. On Friday, I was, as chairman of the tote, it's tradition that I have lunch with Princess Anne in the royal box, which is a great pleasure. But we'd stuck our necks out with a horse in the Gold Cup called Bob's Worth. And we laid it, and we lost £4 million on the race. And I had to present the trophy because we were the sponsors of the race to the owners, to the trainer, and to the jockey, who had big smiles over the face. And I had to smile, and I was gritting my teeth. But, you know, it's part of life, it's part of the game. It's without the gamble and without the risk, there'd be it'd be a boring life. And I've built my businesses on risk, and that's what it is. You know, I'm totally confident in my ability to accept risk, and throughout the whole of my career, I've never been in danger of one incident taking me under. I've always been confident that I'll see it through to tomorrow. But last week was a bit trying. But I accept it. It's there, and it'll happen again.
I mean, it's interesting as well that if we had a punter sitting there who'd just lost a fortune at the races, they'd all have been sympathising and groaning, but because it was the bookmaker, they were all roaring with laughter.
They love it.
Now, your life story is such a good one, inspirational, totally inspirational to young entrepreneurs. And it all began in Salford, where you were brought up. Just set the scene for us there, the area where you lived, what your home was like, your family.
I was born in the Odsal district of Salford, which has got a really bad reputation. I never knew it as with a bad reputation. It was a poor working class area, but you know the families were very close, and my mum and dad lived in a two up, two down, just off Trafford Road there, which was a tough area. And we had 4 kids in one bedroom, my brother, myself in one bed, and my 2 sisters in another bed. It was a happy childhood. You know, we never felt poor. I mean, we were poor, but we never felt it. Because everybody around us was in the same street. It was, if you accepted it and you got on with it. And I had a very good childhood, loving parents. And I mean, my parents weren't big onto education, because in those days you left at 15 on a Friday and you started work on a Monday. So there was no need. Well, when I say no need for an education, it would have been fantastic to have one. But unfortunately, I never got one.
Well, eventually, you set up your own betting shop, your very first betting shop.
Yeah. At 15, I started working for a guy called Peters, who was ahead of his time. And I got a very good grounding in the industry from Ernie Peters. He was the most bad-tempered man that you could imagine. But when he was winning, he was fantastic. And he looked after us, and I learnt the profession under him. At 24, he retired. When I was 24, he retired. And I always had this thing inside me, this growth that wanted to do things for myself. I never wanted to work for anybody else. And an opportunity came along for a shop in Pendleton, Salford. And I rang the guy up. I said, his name is Billy Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher, I hear your business is for sale. And he said, no, it's not true. Come and see me. And he slammed the phone down on me. So I went. I'd never done a deal in my life. I was terrified of the guy, and he kept me waiting at the back of the shop like a little boy. And I saw the figures, and I knew I could make a real business out of this. And I asked him how much he wanted for it, and he wanted £4,000, and it was like asking him for £1 million. There was no way I was going to get 4,000, but I didn't say I can't get it. So I went round to the family, and I scrounged off everybody, begged, borrowed, stole, just to get the money. And I managed to get 2,000 together. And I went back to Billy Fletcher and I said, Mr. Fletcher, I'm sorry, I can't buy your shop. He asked me the reason why. I told him. And he said, I'll give you a mortgage of £2,000. I want 10% interest on it. And I want a cheque every week from you. And my first job on a Monday morning was to send him a £20 cheque plus his interest. And that's how the guy gave me the break. When we started the business, he employed 5 through the week and 7 on a Saturday. We couldn't afford anybody. It was my dad, my brother and myself. I was the owner of the business. My brother and my dad came in as partners. And my wife was the cleaner. I'm still with her. It's costing me plenty now, believe me. She was the cleaner. She was my cashier. I used to go home. She'd put me dinner on the table. She'd go back and clean the shop. She'd work from 10 in the morning till 12, and she'd work all day Saturday. And she reminded me the other week she got £6 a week. But as I say, it's cost me plenty since.
So you set up that shop, which was clearly successful because you then opened a second shop. which then became successful. Now, at that time, were you thinking, hello, we've got one, we've got two, these both work, I see a chain here, and did you then start to build a huge company, or were you just doing it one at a time?
I've never had a plan. The second shop came along and we paid virtually nothing for it. It was pennies that we paid for it. But we knew how to build a business, and we knew how to look after customers, and we knew how to give value, and we're totally honest. And I still am. My word is my bond, always. You know, wherever I go, nobody can ever accuse me of going back on anything. But no, I didn't. There was no plan. The plan was to feed my family. And we were very successful, and in months we doubled the turnover and trebled the turnover in these shops that we bought. And opportunities came along, and it was slow. For the first 10 years, we built it up to probably 35 shops. And then about 20 years ago, I got the bug. An opportunity came about to buy some shops in Newcastle, and I'd always had this. I was a bit parochial. I was frightened of expanding too far from Manchester. If it was more than 25 miles from Manchester, I didn't want to know. Remember, in those days, we didn't have satellite and computers, etc. So an opportunity came along to buy some shops in Newcastle. I went up there, half-hearted, and I saw them, and I saw a lot of good things in Newcastle. And I've got to say, the Geordies have been fantastic people. Never had a problem up there. So I bought 16 shops. And I could run them, and it was easy to run them. I had a good team up there, and it gave me the confidence. I don't care whether shops are in Timbuktu, I could run them. And then I put a development team together of 5 guys and lawyers. We got a really good team. We put it together, and I had to be different to other bookmakers because I was doing it organically. The other bookmakers, Ladbrokes, Hills and Corals, they were buying businesses, acquiring them that way. Why did I have to be different? If I got on the high street next to a Ladbrokes, Hills and Corals who had been there 20 years, why would anybody, if they were being looked after, come out of those shops into my shops? So I had to give more. And we coined the phrase the bonus king. And that's what I'm known as in the industry, the bonus king, because I always give value, and I work to a margin of 2%, less than the rest of the industry. Now, 2% doesn't sound a lot of money, but in our business currently we're doing in the order of about 7 billion a year. So you can see where I'm coming from there. So we started galloping with the business, and at our peak we were opening 80 shops a year with organic growth. The situation now is more or less the country is saturated. Having said that, in the 60s, there was close to 16,000 betting shops in this country. Now, there's 9,000. Why? Because it's going offshore and to betting exchanges, and it's a grind, but it's a good challenge.
But when you started to build and build and build, and you mentioned the big boys there, William Hill and Ladbrokes and Coral. I mean, how were they reacting to this new boy on the block and the fact that somebody was moving into their territory?
They hated me.
Hated you?
Yeah, hated me. The word went out, get down. But I wouldn't lie down to them. I just fought them. And
how did they set about getting you?
They try and undercut me and try and not make it profitable for me. But I wouldn't lie down to that. I've always been stubborn. And I knew that if I give value for money, was a little bit different to them, opened earlier, closed later. One example I would give you, when I first went into business, Afternoon Greyhounds had only just started. It was in its infancy. And within a few months of being in business, we had a major blow to us. And the blow was this. In 1967, foot and mouth disease came in, and they closed the racing industry down for 3 months. I had no choice. I stayed open for the afternoon dogs. All the other bookmakers around me closed, because there wasn't much money on afternoon dogs. But after a couple of weeks, because people were being starved of having a bet, my shop was absolutely crammed. And I was taking fortunes and making fortunes. And other bookmakers were saying, how are you doing with it, Fred? And I'd say, oh, it's very quiet, there's nothing there.
And how big did your empire become before you went for the tote?
I got up to 850 shops. Most of it, probably 80% of it was organic growth. The other 20% was purchases. We did our job properly. You know, even now, on Friday morning, I'll be on the 6 o'clock train out of Warrington, heading for Glasgow to look for new pitches. I still get the kick out of the buzz, and I'll be in a T-shirt and a pair of jeans and an anorak on, and a cap so people don't recognise me. And because I can still smell where money is. And I enjoy it.
Good for you. So what was it then that attracted you to the tote? And maybe for people who don't know what the tote is, you might explain that to us first. So what attracted you to that, and to bid against others to get this off the government who owned it?
The tote was owned by the government, and it was formed in the 1920s by Winston Churchill because he hated bookmakers. And it was an underworked business. It was the establishment, and it gave nearly all its profits back to racing. It was formed by the establishment for the establishment. What I could never understand when Thatcher came in, she privatised gas, electric, water, British Airways, BT. Why did she keep the tote? There was no logical reason why. Why should the government be bookmakers? There was no logical reason for it. And it was dying on the vine. The shops were poor. The shops were the joke of the industry. If you went and challenged a tote shop, you beat them because the morale was there, was gone. There was no investment in them. It was run by civil servants, and it had been rumoured. And to be fair to the tote staff, the for sale sign had been over the door for the last 7-8 years before I bought it. So it was difficult for them to keep people, good people, and attract good people. The Tory government came in, and George Osborne said, I'm going to find a solution to the tote. He never said he was going to sell it. And the solution to the tote went on for 9 months. There was when he actually announced the sale of the tote, they put it up to tender, and initially there was 20 bids for it. And I never believed it could go to anyone outside a trade player. And there was two companies that I was afraid of. Ladbrokes and Hills couldn't buy it. They were barred out with monopolies because they already owned 2,000 shops. The logical buyers was Betfred, Paddy Power, or Coral. Paddy Power never bid, and they never bid because it wasn't their MO. They like big high street shops, mainly in the south of England, so they never did it. Corals were in trouble. They were underfinanced, they'd overborrowed, they had massive debts, and they couldn't bid. The bidding process went on for 9 months, and it was at times you felt as though the establishment was against you. I mean, in one of the newspapers, it was billed as the top hats versus the flat caps, and the flat caps won. So it went on for 9 months, this bidding process, and we had to bid on three separate occasions, but we had an overwhelming case because when my finance director sat down with me, he said, do we go for it? I said, we go for it on 2 conditions. 2 and 2 needs to make 6. And the way 2 and 2 made 6 was this. There was 2 companies. The cost savings in between was £25 million. That's what we identified. The tote itself was only making £20 million a year. But when we cut the cost out, we were making £45 million. That's how we could afford to pay £265 million. And that's why a non-trade player couldn't do it. They didn't have those savings. But it was more than that. It was politics that was coming into it, an establishment. Sir Martin Broughton, who's the chairman of BA, put a bid in for it, and he got very close. He had city connections. I I believe that I did him a favour winning it, because I don't believe that he would have been successful with it. But the city wanted to back him. They didn't want to back me. And I'd agreed a deal with the government bankers 5 weeks before, and believe me, they went back on the word on it. It was a real kick, that one. And you thought the world was against you at times. And my kids had bought me a holiday in Italy for a week, for a Christmas present, funnily enough. And I was sat on the beach and I got a phone call. And I'm just having a drink with a lifeguard. And my phone went. And it was my finance director. He said, have Lazard, which is the bankers for the government, have Lazard been in touch with you? So I said, no. He said, have you got any news? I said, no. He said, we've won the tote. I tell you that the emotion, after 9 months of battling and feeling as though you were being kicked, it was a real fantastic feeling. So the next phone call was to get a private jet out to Italy, fly back to Biggin Hill. I landed there. The jet took my wife to Manchester, and it was 48 hours of interviews with Sky Television, Channel 4, you name it, we were doing it, and it was very, very exhausting. We got into the tote, we took over in July 11, and we made fantastic progress on it. Morale's back. Over the counter business, that's actual bets that are being taken. We've increased the actual bets by 12%. The money the profits we're taking out of the machines is up 19%. Nobody in the industry is doing this. In every way you look, we're doing it. I'm in front with my debt. I'm very comfortable with it, and it's not given me 1 second of sleepless nights. In fact, the day I bought the tote, I bought a villa in Mallorca, and I worried more about the villa than I did about the tote. Why? Because I couldn't justify wasting my time going on holiday. I had to get the tote sorted out.
But just tell us the reaction in sections of the racing community, because they didn't like it when you got it. I had 3 things to do to win the tote. The first was I had to pay the price, and it was a full price, 265 million. It was 13 times earnings, which was massive. Secondly, I had to get the tote pensioners on my side, or the trustees for the pensioners, and I won that one overwhelmingly. Excuse me. Why? Because I'd been in business for 44 years with an unblemished record. And I was against Sir Martin Broughton, who was putting a new company together that had never traded before. And you as a trustee, would you trust somebody who'd worked in the industry for 44 years and made profits for 44 years, or a new company? So I won that one quite easily. And the third thing that I had to do was promise racing that I would sponsor them to the tune of 11 million in the first year and 9 million ongoing for the next 6 years. The old tote in its last year gave 11 million pounds. That's why I put 11 million guarantee up. The first year I took over the tote, I gave them 12.5 million. In the second year, when I had to give them 9 million, I've given them 11.5 million. And I aim to beat it every year, because I've got a little bit of pride and I want to show people that I don't go back on my word, and I deliver, and I'll make a proper business out of it. And have you won them over, all those that didn't want this northern working class fella to come in and take it over?
I'd like to think so, but I don't think so. All I can do my bit for them, and I can prove that I'm honourable about it, and that I keep my word, and I will succeed. And I've got a monopoly or an exclusive to run tote in this country for the next 6 years. While I've got that, my promise is that I will deliver, and I will deliver.
Great. Now, here we are at the University of Bolton. I said earlier you have a real connection, and the hint was given of what it was. Your daughter studied and graduated here, didn't she?
She did. And from here she went and formed her own business. She's formed a catering business, very successful. She had 5 catering sandwich shops in city centre Manchester. Did it herself. Then she started a family and sold the business out. But she's got a little bit of a dad in her.
Good. But a friend of hers was studying here at this university too,
Yep.
which is a fascinating story too, because she actually did join your business at the beginning. Tell us about it.
A girl came to this university and my daughter met her in class here. They became very good friends. And she was very much into IT and computers. Went working for a Swiss bank in Zurich and hated it. And she didn't last very long. She came back in tears. I don't think the bank really looked after her. Anyway, she came back, she needed a job, and I needed somebody in IT. And we worked together for about 4 years, 5 years. One day she came into my office and she became head of IT. She came in and said to me, "Fred, I'm leaving." And I was really upset that she was leaving because I'd paid her well. She was like a second daughter to me, and I was upset. So I said, "You're leaving?" She said, "Yeah, I'm going to start my own business, and you're going to back me." So I sit down, let's talk, have a coffee. And this girl comes in every 10 days and still makes my coffee. So I said, "What's the business?" So she described the business, and she said, "You're going to put 100,000 in, and you're going to get 50% of the business." Well, a bit like Dragon's Den, I promised her £100,000, but I only wanted 25% of the business. I can't be that good. In practice, I never put £100,000 into her. I put £50,000 and I dripped the money into her. Within a year, she'd repaid me, and this year she's just made £1 million. And I say to her, "You don't need me now." She said, "Fred, I need you. I need you when it's going wrong, and when I need my confidence," because I think that's a good point as well. When everything's going for you, you're king of the world. You don't need anybody. You need it when your confidence is down on the floor and the bankers are banging at your door, and you need a few grey hairs there to put their arm around you and say, "Look, we'll get through this one. We won't run away from it." And she's still like a daughter, and I still see her 2 or 3 times a month, and I enjoy working with her.
And she's just hugely successful.
Massively. And she works and works and works. On a Sunday night, she's sat up in bed, sending tenders out at 11 o'clock on a computer. How can I ask for better than that?
Worth $1 million, and building new offices.
Just bought new offices in Warrington. I had to kick her out of my building because she was outgrowing it.
We'll move into the final section. I mean, sure, everybody here is saying, what was her business? I mean, what did she do?
She sells nursery vouchers. And
she sold?
Nursery vouchers. It's a voucher that gives the employer a tax break and the employee a tax break. It's the government in the middle, and there's a lot of news in the budget about it today, which has come up for her, so it'll make it better still. But she spotted this niche in the market, and she went for it. And she's been offered several millions of pounds for the business and turned it down. And she's ambitious to do other things. And I'll back her with whatever she wants to do because she's worth backing. All businesses, I believe, are about people, not the business. Because I am totally convinced at my age, which I hate, I can't do much about that.
Which is?
I was 70 last week. But
don't applaud. Because I'm also 70 and I hate it when people applaud.
I believe that I could start a business tomorrow with nothing and still be successful, even at 70. I'm probably more ambitious now than when I was 21, and I was ambitious when I was 21.
Well, we're here today for the launch of the business school, and I just wonder what you thought about a business school and what it does, because you're the self-made man. You had none of that, as you told us earlier. You went straight into the business at the age of 15 and so on. So what do you think about business schools and the value of them?
I'm sure there's a great value there. The unfortunate thing that when I left school, I didn't know what a balance sheet was. And I've had to learn what a balance sheet was on the street. I had no insight into business whatsoever. I went into it and it was sink or swim, and unfortunately I could swim. But with that, with going to a business school, it could be a massive help for you. And if I could start my life again, I would like to do something like law or accountancy. Not because I want to be a lawyer or an accountant, but it gives you an insight there, the thinking of it, and understand how businesses work. I suppose the weakness with lawyers and accountants is they see all the risk as well, which I'm probably too thick to see risk. But business schools, I mean, if I could have, I think it's like the phrase, hit the ground running. I didn't hit the ground running, but with the benefit of a business school, it could have been fantastic.
Well, you talk about hitting the ground running, young entrepreneurs going out there, but times are so tough, and we saw that with the budget today, just underlines how difficult it is and how long it's going to go on for. So, I mean, what would you say to students coming here wondering if it's pretty hopeless really out there to be starting a business now and to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I think you chose a terrible word there, hopeless. I would never use that word. In Eastlands, the city's ground, which we don't talk about, there's an old sharp factory there that closed down years ago. Manchester Corporation got hold of it, and they've done a fantastic job on it. And it's incubator units there for young people. And I've got 25 of these people there. I go out with these I call them kids. The boss of it is 29. He looks like my paper boy. He is a genius. He's fantastic. And they work there 9 or 5, except to say you have to kick them out at 11 o'clock because they're still there, not getting paid for it because they're into it. And this is what we've not discussed is my business in Gibraltar. We've got 120 people with our internet business out there. It's an international business. It's very aggressive, very pushy. But these kids are putting the mobiles together for me, the apps together, and I love them. There is opportunities there. I would say to any student is, go and get a grounding in something. Know your business. And then whatever you do, have a go for yourself. Because you never really make proper money working for anybody else. And the only way you fail is by not trying. Because if you go out there and fail, get off and do it again. The Americans are the best in the world at it. You know, don't be defeatist with it. If I was being born again, I don't think I'd want to be born in this country because I do think we have a wrong attitude. It's why we can't do it instead of why we can do it or why we want to do it. And I go around the world. I was in Beijing a few months ago. I can't believe how that country's changed. It's so go-go. Unfortunately, they don't do gambling. Not legal gambling. But, you know...
you do need to be an optimist at this time.
Oh, I think to be an entrepreneur or a businessman, you need to be a dreamer. And I think I'm a dreamer. I think you need to be an optimist. And you think there's always light out there. In all business, there has to be risk. Because if there's no risk, there's no business. Because everybody would be doing it. Hard work comes into it naturally, and flair, and imagination, and thinking out of the box. If I had to say any of them, I suppose optimist would fit me. If I'm good at anything, I'm good at spotting good people and good opportunities, and the good people never leave me, and I encourage them to leave me. Go out and do it for yourself. I've got some fantastic staff. We're running 10,000 people. And I'd love, if we had time, which we've not, to tell you about the other businesses we've got, because we've got some other great businesses that I'd love to tell you about, but we've not got time tonight.
Well, they might come in terms of questioning, but in terms of the straight one-to-one interview, thank you very much, Fred Doan. Fantastic, very fantastic.